Hello, and welcome to this presentation on Italian nationalism and the role of Austria-Hungary. These are notes 11.4a, and this is, of course, Mr. Marks. I'll give you a minute to copy down the key terms for this section. There were a number of obstacles to Italian unification. The first was that it had been an exceptionally long time since Italy had been unified under the Western Roman Empire and its last ruler, Romulus Augustus. If you remember, that was back in 476 AD. In addition, Italy had been a battleground for ambitious foreign and local princes. Also, after the defeat of Napoleon, we had that Congress of Vienna who met. The leader of the conference, Clemens von Metternich, who was helping out the Austrians, ignored the Italian nationalists even though they had sided with him and divided up the country among Austria, the Habsburgs, and France. This created strong ties for each group to sections of the country. Venetians, or the people that lived around Venice, would be tied to Venice. People around the Tuscan Peninsula would be tied there, Sardinia, etc. They associate with the region. It would be sort of like us saying, we're not part of the United States anymore. We are of Michigan. Actually, it would be more like even Michigan dividing farther and saying, we're from Grand Rapids, we're from Detroit. Anyway, this made it hard to unify Italy as a single people because many wars were going to happen over these 1,424 years. One of the first people who really wanted to unite Italy, or had the means to do it, is Giuseppe Mazzini. He's often referred to as the soul of Italy. He was a patriot of Italy. He was a philosopher, and he was a politician. He would end up helping to bring about the modern Italian state. Even though Italy was divided up by many different powers, Mazzini saw Italy as having the strong heritage, these connections that superseded the feelings that people had towards their own cities. He really was pushing for a republican state where the Italians were going to vote in order to reorganize themselves. So he organized a secret society called Young Italy. Its goal was to constitute Italy one free, independent, republican nation. And he tried to actually set up a revolution in Rome. Even though this will eventually end up failing, it's going to be brought down by powers much stronger than his Young Italy. It's going to be something that will resonate with Italians. They'll keep looking back to Mazzini and his idea of a unified Italy in order to bring everything together. And bringing all of Italy together is called the Risorgimento. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that right. This is the Italian nationalist movement. It's an ideological and literary movement. So you can see a newspaper that dealt with this issue as well, that brought the nation together. It made them think about this more. It made the Italian people start to think of themselves as Italians instead of as their separate parts. This is going to lead to a series of political events that will free the Italian states from foreign powers and unite them politically. It's going to spread first from Rome, which is where Mazzini had tried to start his revolution, and it's going to spread to the island of Sardinia. And you can see it there. It's kind of the blue island. It's south of Corsica. It's across that sea from Rome. Okay. This is where a king, remember each of these cities kind of had their own kingdoms. This is where the king Victor Emmanuel II is going to organize the Italian states together. He's going to end up not just being the king of Sardinia, but also the king of Piedmont and Savoy. He is going to make the smartest move. Well, going back a step, the main thing you need to know about him is he will eventually become the first king of a united Italy. He's going to be the symbol of the Italian Risorgimento. He's very popular, especially in the Kingdom of Sardinia, because of his respect for the constitution which he sets up, and especially because he's very reform-minded. I included here on the right-hand side, before we get into more of the steps that he takes to organize Italy into a single nation. On the right-hand side is the Seal of Savoy, which Victor Emmanuel II was king of. I'm including it just as a side note. This dynasty, which he is in direct line from, is held as the longest held dynasty in the entirety of European history. And that's their symbol. And he was part of that line. Now, in 1852, Victor Emmanuel makes probably the smartest move he could ever make. He hires this man, Count Camillo Cavour, in order to become prime minister of Sardinia. Now, Cavour, he was a statesman. He was already a crafty politician. And the only person that in history that could really match him at the same time would probably be Otto von Bismarck of Germany. You see, Cavour also believed in the idea of realpolitik, that you do whatever you can to make your state stronger, to bring more power to you, even if it means switching alliances, even if it means doing things which other people would consider reprehensible. And if when you're trying to go for this single plan and things aren't turning out the way you want to, just switch again. Switch your view and say, wait a second, I was going along with you the whole time. His first goal is to annex Lombardy and Venetia from Austria. These are the countries which are on the northern end of the boot, when you're getting into the European continent itself off the peninsula. To accomplish this, he allies Sardinia with Britain and France during a time called the Crimean War. This is fought against Russia. In 1858, he then made an alliance with Napoleon III against Austria, and then he managed to maneuver Austria into a war against Sardinia and France, and continually was able to use other armies to help achieve his ends. And eventually, he would drive the Austrians from Lombardy, which would give Victor Emmanuel control of almost all of the north, with the exception of the area right outside Rome. Meanwhile, in the south, a very powerful and charismatic man named Giuseppe Garibaldi, probably considered to be the foremost military figure and the most popular hero in the age of Italian unification. He starts organizing the kingdoms to the south. Now, he's actually known as the hero of two worlds because he helped to make Uruguay achieve their independence, and then he makes his way back to Italy and starts to do the same thing with them. He's not about really setting a king on the throne. He wants to just unify Italy however he can, and he wants to make it a republic. He's very much following in Mazzini's footsteps. So he creates what's known as the Red Shirt Army. It's 1,000 red-shirted volunteers, most of these workers who are trained by him really quickly, and people start flocking to his cause. He takes control of Sicily, that if Italy's the boot, Sicily's the stone the boot is kicking. And from there, he crossed the mainland and marched triumphantly north, all the way up through Naples. His success actually alarms Cavour, who feared that a hero of this kind of stature would set up his own republic in the south and would overshadow his king, Victor Garibaldi. So Cavour sends Victor Emmanuel to take over the armies of Garibaldi. And instead, though, Victor Emmanuel recognizes Garibaldi as being this amazing leader, and so he uses his forces, which were supposed to attack the red shirts, to attack the papal states, those lands that were controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. Then he met up with Garibaldi under a flag of truce. In one of the most dynamic moments, and this is shown on the right-hand picture, you have Garibaldi in his red uniform on the left and Victor Emmanuel on the right. Garibaldi turns over Naples and Sicily to Victor Emmanuel in the hopes of making a united Italy. Shortly afterward, because remember, Garibaldi was making a republic. He couldn't make this decision on his own. They held a vote in southern Italy, and they approved this move, so that in 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was crowned the King of Italy. If you think of these people that we've talked about, while Victor Emmanuel is going to be considered to be the king of Italy, Cavour is going to be considered to be the brain of the unification, Mazzini is referred to as the soul of the unification, and Garibaldi is often referred to as the sword. Now, not everything was unified. You still had Rome. So after Garibaldi ceded control to Victor Emmanuel, Venice and Rome, these two major cities, still were not under control. You can see Venice is in the north, and Rome's kind of in the middle of Rome. So Cavour negotiates a deal with Bismarck. And remember, Bismarck's trying to get things worked out to unify Germany at the same time. And out of that deal, Italy acquires Venetia after that Austro-Prussian War. Remember that very short war where Bismarck had tricked the Austrians by leading their troops into Denmark, and then he attacked them, and they were too weak to fight back. Well, he had the help of the Italians as well, who attacked from the south, and so they were able to take Venetia in that conflict. Then, when Bismarck is busy in the Franco-Prussian War, France is forced to withdraw its troops from Rome, which they had control of, and for the first time since the fall of the Roman Empire, Italy was a united nation. Now, even though it's united, there are still a couple of problems. The first problem was there are some great regional differences between the North and the South. The North was far richer and had more cities than the South. For centuries, northern Italian cities had flourished as centers of business and culture, the height of the Renaissance. The South, on the other hand, was rural and poor. Kind of sounds like the United States, divided between North and South. The South's population was booming, but illiterate peasants could wring only a meager existence from the exhausted farmland. In addition to regional differences, there was hostility between this newly unified Italian government and the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope was bitterly upset about the seizure of the papal states and of Rome, and then to only be given a small area of the Vatican City within Rome, which is still exists today, but much smaller area than what they had been in charge of before. The Pope saw themselves as prisoners in the Vatican, and they were kept telling the Italian people to rebel against this new rule. And since most Italians were Catholic, this created quite a bit of tension, even within a people that did want to be unified.